Let's talk about how to deliver a client proposal presentation to set you up for success. First and foremost, congratulations, because if you're watching this video, that means that you have an opportunity in the very near future to go present a proposal to a prospect. And that means that you were not only on the short list, but that you have made it to the phase where they are really considering working with you and your firm, which is awesome. But I want to give you some strategies and tips today to really set you up for success in that proposal meeting. Let's start with this. There will come a time when you are offered the opportunity to present the proposal in person. A prospect will say to you, well, you can do it over Zoom if you want, or if you'd like to come into our office and meet with us in person, you could do that as well. And in that case, you're going to have to weigh the pros and cons. Now, if that organization is right downtown, you can drive there in 15, 25 minutes. That's sort of a no-brainer decision. But what if that prospect is located on the other side of the country? Is it worth going to the airport, standing in a long security line, flying all the way across the country to do that? Or should you say, no, I'm just going to do it over Zoom? Well, let's just take a look at the three scenarios that could unfold. Now, granted, this is only in the case of if there are other competitors involved. If you are the only competitor involved, this does not hold true. You can make that decision on your own. But if there are other companies, other coaches, consultants, or professional service providers that organization is considering, which, by the way, is a completely fair question for you to ask, then let's look at what could potentially happen. Let's say that you do get on that plane and you go present in person, but your competitors don't. Think about what that signals, what that communicates to the prospect, to those discerning decision makers that are, if they're thinking about having people come in and present, this is a pretty big deal to them. This is something that they really care about. And the truth is that in every single case, you being present and the competitors not being present raises your stock considerably. In fact, a number of years ago, we had a Bold House Collective member whose firm, very small firm, was up against two other competitors, each of which had 2,000 plus employees each. This was for a global, multi-year, huge financial opportunity. And she called me and she said, Angelique, should I go? And I said, not only should you go, but you need to take one of your team members with you and get them there as well so that you have a show of force. She actually ended up taking two of her bench members with her. Long story short, they not only won the deal they were bidding on, they ended up taking work away internationally from some of the other vendors that were already there because it meant that much to the client. You could have a scenario in which you do not present in person, but one of your competitors decides to get on that plane and go there. Now their stock is way up, your stock is way down, that's not good. Or last, you present in person, but so do your competitors. In that case, the playing field is leveled. But if you're using the strategies that we teach at Bold House, that's going to give you a competitive advantage there anyway. But at least in that case, it's a level playing field. The bottom line is, if you're given the opportunity to present in person, and so are the competitors, you have no choice but to get on that plane and go if you really want to win that contract. So let's talk about some of the things that should have happened already. I'm going to go through these quickly because we have other videos on this channel that go way more in depth on these things, and you definitely want to watch those. If you are an expert that is selling to organizations, this is the channel that you want to be following because that's all we do here at Bold House. But by this point, the prospect knows your full suite of expertise and capabilities. You've clarified and verified not just the challenge they're having, but the desired outcomes and results they're looking for. You've co-created with them the proposal. So this should not be a big unveiling in most cases, unless it was a request for a proposal, but we'll talk about that in some other videos. You used our pullback strategy that we share to make sure that you're not putting too much on their plate. Even if they sound sound excited and they just want to do everything all at one time. They don't have the time to do that. They might have the money to do it. There's no company right now that has available bandwidth. Everyone is swamped. So just make sure you've done these steps before you're presenting a proposal. All right, so let's talk about the meeting itself. And the first thing is your entire energy, strategic thought process, the way you show up. You want to make sure that you are treating this meeting as a conversation, not as a show and tell, not as a performance. It's a conversation. So energetically, it's about building a partnership, not delivering a pitch. And your goal should be to listen for anywhere that they start sharing hesitancy or pulling back, because you want to clarify details and make changes before objections arise. Once a decision maker gets to a point that they are objecting to something that you're proposing or you're sharing with them, it's often too late to turn that battleship around in a bathtub. So you want to make sure that you slow your roll, and before you share something, clarify, then share. Clarify, then share. Next, you want to make sure that you adjust the details of your proposal. Really think of it as your recommendations. You want to adjust those details live in the meeting. So one of my recommendations is that even if you're up at, let's say, a screen, just like I am right now, that you have a team member at the conference room table with the document, with the PowerPoint live and up on their computer, and you are literally making the changes in real time in those meetings. It's shocking to me how few consultants and trainers and service providers make the changes right then and there. They say things like, okay, we'll go update that and send it back to you. Why do that? Why not make the changes live in the room and show the client, hey, how about this instead? Because what that communicates to the decision maker is how agile, responsive, and fast your team is to work with. That you're not going to be so anchored into something that you're not going to respond quickly to what their needs are. In order to plan the proposal meeting for success, you want to make sure that you're always booking a minimum of 2 times. And the reason for this is because things happen. We've all had folks cancel meetings, whether someone is sick, there's bad weather, or there's just the crisis of the day. So don't book just 1 time for these meetings, especially if it's a virtual meeting, because those are really easy to reschedule. So always say, John, Jane, that's great. Glad we're planning for next Friday. If for some reason next Friday doesn't work, how about the following Wednesday as a backup? So get both of those on the calendar from the get-go. Make sure you know who is attending the meeting and why. And you need to ask directly, John, is there anyone else at all that you're planning to come to the meeting? Because we would like to be prepared for that. And when John or Jane or Jackie or whoever starts listing off the names of who's coming to that meeting, it's important for you to say, great. Can you give me their title? And can you also share with me why they are attending? What is their role and relationship to this particular project or initiative? It is your right to know that. And how can you go read their LinkedIn profile or Google them or think about what kinds of questions they might have if you don't know that these people are going to be there, what their job responsibility is in the company, and why they feel it's important for them to be at this meeting. Next, if it's in person, you absolutely have to take printed copies of your proposal presentation with you. Take extra copies. Make sure they are spiral bound at FedEx office, that there's a clear cover on the front, that there's a backing on the back, and make sure you are printing them single-sided. This is really important. When they're single-sided and they flip over, they're going to take notes on the back of those slides. This is really good for you because psychologically, we have a greater emotional connection to ideas and documents when we start writing on them. So you want to provide lots of space for that. Plus, they won't toss it. If their notes are in that presentation, they're going to hold on to it. We had a client recently in our Bold House Collective who had done this very thing. Turns out it wasn't the right timing for the organization to move forward right then and there. But 6 months later, one of the decision makers still had her proposal in their office, handed it to another decision maker. She got a call, and that turned into business. So whenever you can get brand into somebody's hands, especially if you're using our style of proposals, then they're going to hold on to that. And don't send materials over ahead of time if it's on Zoom, because if that meeting gets canceled at the last minute and you have already sent over that proposal to them, they will have much less incentive to get the meeting rebooked because they'll just say, oh, we're busy, we're just going to read what you have, and that is never good news. So do not send the materials early. If you're presenting over Zoom or similar, wait until the meeting is over in order to send them a PDF copy of your slides, but for the meeting, just use screen share. Okay, next let's talk about leading this meeting with confidence. Really, really important. You want to make sure that you are opening the meeting strong, and to do that, you want to confirm priorities. You want to share with everyone what you see as the primary priority of that day's meeting, but you also want to hear from each decision maker in that meeting what their highest priority is for that meeting. That way you understand if everyone's on the same page or if in fact you are managing competing priorities in that meeting. You want to engage everyone by name, and at least once in that meeting, you need to pose a question to each person in the room to make sure everyone's voice has been heard. And you want to end the meeting with next steps clearly outlined and dates agreed to as to when those things are going to happen. All right, if this was helpful, let's take this conversation a little bit further, a little bit deeper, because when it comes to being an expert working with organizations, there is so much to know about this to set yourself up for success. One of my favorite things that we talk about is really how to navigate this entire sales process. The video I want you to watch next is a proposal cover letter to a client. That might sound simple. It's amazing how many folks lose the deal by sending over a proposal without doing certain key things. I show you exactly how to avoid that in this next video. I have dropped the link to that right below, and we will pick up our conversation on all of this right over there. So I'll see you in just a minute.